Moin, I'm Catherine, and today I'm in bed with Adam and Keegan from Yes We Mystic, one of my favorite bands. I'm not lying here. And so I'm very, very happy that we're doing this. We just did a fantastic session that I'm going to link in the corner. Also a fantastic session with Devarrow, and they played something together, and this is all going to be somewhere in the corner. Just check out the info.
He's still sitting over there like a
yeah. That's why I looked in that direction.
He's here for moral support now.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're going to do the Reader Problems book tag, and I'm going to link the original video from that tag in the corner too, if I can find it. So here's the first question. We're all going to answer each question. You have 20,000 books on your TBR, which is like the pile of books you haven't read yet, just in case you're not down with the booktube language. How in the world do you decide what to read next, Keegan? How many are there on your TBR approximately?
There's usually not very many.
Okay.
I tend to kind of just like go like 2-3 books at a time.
Okay.
But I think I sort of just find that like when I've read one book that I really enjoyed, I try and like seek out other books that are either by the same author or have a similar vibe. One time I think this isn't always a guarantee, but if a book references another book, I think it's cool to go off and read the book that was referenced.
Yeah.
Like I read a great nonfiction book a little while ago called Dishwasher, which is about a guy whose life goal was to wash dishes in all 50 American states.
Okay. That's crazy.
And it takes him like 20 years, and it's and in the book he references George Orwell's book Down and Out in Paris and London, and I read that right after, and I really enjoyed it, and I kind of it was a satisfying progression. So yeah, for me, it's just I think like stylistic similarity, or like the author, somehow approves of that book. I don't know.
Perfect. Yeah. Your sister?
I really like biographies, so I kind of jump around by person, and then I usually look for biographies in which the lead character was a piece of work. I'm not looking for a biography where So yeah, sometimes I'll start reading another biography about usually I like political figures or whatever, and so if I start reading one and it seems to be like, oh, this guy or this woman here was just real swell or real nice, and I'll stop reading that book right away. So I've got to jump around and find just kind of
bad person
a biography about bad people, or just other political stuff is mostly what I read. And all my family and friends are like, I read this great fiction book, you should read it. And I'm like, yeah, I will. And I mean it, I will at some point. I'm just kind of on a 5-year nonfiction binge right now.
Okay. So that's why you haven't read any of the books that I sent you, because I mostly read
It's not because
fiction.
I'm illiterate.
Yeah.
I do know how to read, but I just...
You haven't read any of those books.
Yeah,
okay.
It's none of those. Yeah. And how about yourself?
So for me, I think I just go for what mood I'm in, actually. So I read like a few synopses, and then I decide what I just want to go with. Yeah. And my TBR is quite, that's a lot.
Okay. So second question: you're halfway through a book and you're just not loving it. Do you quit, or are you committed, Adam?
That happens to me a lot. I usually don't even really mean to quit it. I always think I'm going to finish, but then I will just look at my shelf and see that there's 25 books that I've read half of. So I guess I do tend to abandon a book that I'm not enjoying, even if I don't really realize it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like with these big, like I'll read like a 1,000-page book, and I'll read like 850 pages of it, and then I was reading this great one about the Paris Accord, the end of the First World War. Okay. And it was so interesting to see all the different borders of today kind of came out of that. And I read like most of it, and then I was like, I get the point. And then just kind of, I love the book. I'd say it was one of my favorite books, but I never read those last 100 pages. I don't know why. I didn't mean to, but yeah, so I guess
that's what you're going to do when you come home.
I guess I'm a book abandoner.
Okay. I never used to be able to quit books because I just felt so disrespectful of the author and of the time I already put into the book. But I'm getting better at this. So now I have like a 50 to 100 pages rule. And if I'm not loving it, I'm trying to just put it down.
Yeah, for me, I think it's just kind of like, why force yourself to make it through something you're really not enjoying? It's like, you don't owe anybody anything. Like, I think that's true of a lot of things, really. Like, if you're finding you're into something and it's just like, oh, I don't like this. It's like, oh, but the author will be mad. It's like, I don't know. Like, my dad will often he'll sit down in a bookstore and read the first like chapter or so of a book before he even buys it. Because
that's clever.
Yeah, if he doesn't like it, he won't even bother. So yeah, I think it's just
shout out to Colin Steele, by the way. That's his dad.
Hey, good job, Dad. You taught me everything I need to know about throwing books away.
Yeah, but it's good. Yeah, I'm hoping I'll get there someday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so the end of the year is coming, and you're so close, yet so far from getting to the end of your Goodreads reading challenge.
Yeah.
Do you try to catch up, and how?
So first, to explain that Goodreads is a page where you can log the books you're reading and you can set yourself a challenge, how many books you want to read this year. So my challenge is, I think, 100 books this year. So this means I'm like 90 books and it's already December. So what do I do? It hasn't happened to me so far because I'm trying to set myself realistic goals. And actually, if I wouldn't make it, I just wouldn't make it.
You read way more than me.
but it's maybe not healthy.
So what do you do, Keeg?
What would you do? You had a goal to read X many books. You wouldn't.
I think it's just a thing I wouldn't sweat. You know, I give up on goals very easily. I'm a huge quitter. It's like, oh, this is hard. Oh, I just won't do it.
You got a bit of Homer Simpson in you.
Well, that's flattering, I guess. Yeah, it's just like, why do anything that like is challenging?
I really don't believe you enough. But I'm with you on books. I'm with you on books. Okay, you believe it.
I want to read more.
No, I don't think I'd set a book challenge for myself in the first place. I do love to read, but it's more of I don't want to get stressed out about it. You know, it's more of a casual thing that brings me calm and joy. And I read more these days. I read probably articles the most. Like I got my New York Times subscription and just read. So that's where most of my reading comes from in the past month, especially on tour and stuff. Yeah. But I think I just try to read as much as I can, and I love it. But I would never force myself to. I used to when I was younger. I definitely was up there in the hundreds. Because then Keegan and I went to elementary school together, and I don't know, maybe not at this point, but there was our class. Maybe we weren't in the same class at this point, but there's a kind of a class book reading goal where it's like the whole class had to read 800 books or whatever in the year or in a month or whatever it was. And so, if you read a book, you got to mark, that one further towards the class goal. And I remember those days, that's when I was just zipping through books.
I think that's motivating.
I remember that's when everybody was really big on Lord of the Rings. Yeah. And it was this badge of honor to be to be reading deep into the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And there was some guys that was I'm halfway through the Two Towers. And I was like, oh no. So I hated it. I didn't like it at all. So, but I was force feeding myself this fiction that I didn't enjoy. And I was literally fake speed reading just to get the chapters in, and I wasn't following along at all. And it's that's no way to live.
No. So you went to your dad, and he said, "Keegan, you're allowed to stop." I
think it's an important. You're allowed to stop stuff you don't like.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a millennial lesson. You don't like it? Just quit. Exactly. Millennials.
regret. God